Nanganganib na ba ang tinaguriang dividend king ng Pilipinas, ang Semirara Mining and Power Corporation? For years, isa ang SCC sa pinaka-reliable cash cows ng mga dividend investors. High dividend yield, consistent payouts, at predictable ang income. Kaya hindi nakakapagtaka kung bakit isa ang SCC sa favorite dividend stocks ng karamihan ng mga dividend investors. Kaya lang biglang nagbago ang lahat noong i-announce ng Department of Energy na hindi na pwedeng ma-extend ang coal operating contract ng SCC for another 13 years. Ang argument ng SCC ay to deduct 13.3 years from the mine life. Ito yung time when the government still had control over the mine before the full private takeover by DMC. Pero according to DOJ, under the law, coal operating contracts have a maximum lifespan of 50 years. Dahil hindi legally possible ang extension, the DOJ ruled that the Semirara coal blocks must be open to public bidding. Dito nagsimula ang uncertainty sa future ng SCC. At hindi lang SCC ang affected. Damay din ang DMCI Holdings, ang kanyang parent company. Kasi DMC owns 56% of SCC at isa ito sa pinakamalaking contributor ng kita ng DMC. Historically, both SCC and DMC usually nagde-declare sila ng dividends around March with April payout. Kaya lang management decided to postpone the April 2026 dividend decision until after the COC bid results. The DOE requires bidders to prove financial capability. Isipin mo, kung ibibigay ng kumpanya ang malaking portion ng cash nila for dividends ngayon, baka humina ang financial position nila sa bidding. Kaya lang, nagkaroon na naman ng plot twist. Just before the April 28 COC bidding deadline, nag-announce naman ang DOE na postponed indefinitely ang COC bidding. So instead na magkaroon na ng clarity, mas lalo pang nadagdagan ang uncertainty. At dahil dito, bumagsak ulit ang share price ng SCC kasi ayaw ng mga investors ang uncertainty. Wala pang malinaw na timeline sa COC bidding as of the making of this video. Parang walang urgency, which raises the question, bakit parang hindi pressured ang governments at hindi minamadali ang bidding process kahit na may ongoing global energy crisis ngayon? Nakakapagtaka lang. Bakit na-delay ang bidding? According to DOE, na-delay ang bidding to address key concerns raised by prospective bidders and to ensure that all issues raised are fully considered and addressed before announcing the revised deadline. Ito ang catch. If the government changes the terms of reference at gawing mas financial-based ang criteria, instead of asking who is the most qualified to operate the mine, ang magiging tanong ay who is willing to pay the government more. If the bidding is decided based on bid price paid to the government, mababawasan ang advantage ng SCC over other bidders. Kasi ang edge ng SCC ay nasa technical expertise at operational experience nila. Pero kung magiging financial-based ang criteria, a challenger with deep pockets like SMC, pwede niyang ma-outbid ang SCC kahit sila pa ang pinaka-qualified at may technical advantages to operate the mine. 5 companies ang nag-join ng pre-bid conference for the new COC contract in Semirara Island. Siyempre kasama dito ang SCC. Andyan ang Limay Power Incorporated of SMC, Malita Power Incorporated of SMC, Santa Clara, and DESCO. Limay Power is a subsidiary of San Miguel Global Power under the San Miguel Corporation. They operate coal-fired power plants in Limay, Bataan, serving the Luzon grid. Malita Power is also under SMC Global Power, pero based naman sa Mindanao, sa Davao Occidental. Parehong power companies ng SMC, magkaiba lang sila ng location. Ang Santa Clara International Corporation naman is a private Filipino company. It's one of the leading engineering and main contracting groups sa Philippines. At meron din siyang strong presence in the Middle East, operating in power, infrastructure, and civil engineering sectors. Not a coal miner, but they have technical and engineering capability. Desco is a Filipino-owned engineering company providing integrated solutions for the energy and industrial sectors, specializing in drilling services, power plant rehabilitation, and precision manufacturing, serving industries like geothermal, oil, gas, and hydro industries. Hindi rin sila coal miner. So, pwedeng participating sila for specific capabilities or partnership roles. With SMC siguro, so yan ang hindi natin alam. Si SMC, ang top contender challenging SCC. SMC already operates coal-fired power plants. So pag sila ang nanalo, they won't just be generating power, they will be controlling the fuel source from being a buyer of coal to owning the supply. That's vertical integration. And for a company like SMC, big strategic advantage siya. Strong ang financial capability ng SMC at kaya nila mag-structure ng aggressive bids gaya ng coal contract. SMC also has a strong industry presence at meron din siyang good relationship with the Philippine government. Pero mataas ang utang ng SMC. Ang debt-to-equity ratio niya ngayon ay 212.53%. May utang sila na 1.59 trillion pesos with cash of 352.71 billion pesos. Pero hindi ibig sabihin na free lahat ang cash na yan, gagamitin nila for the COC bidding. So most likely, pwedeng naka-allocate na rin ang big portion of that cash para sa pangbayad ng utang nila, ongoing projects, and operations. Another thing, medyo mababa rin ang interest coverage ratio ng SMC at 2.4 times, which means kumikita ang SMC ng around 2.4 times ng kailangan nilang bayarang interest ng utang nila. May buffer pero manipis lang. Kaya sensitive sa earnings drop at higher interest rates. So while they can bid aggressively, hindi rin unlimited ang financial flexibility ng SMC kasi malaki ang utang niya ngayon. Compared sa balance sheet ng SCC, napaka-healthy ang SCC with debt-to-equity ratio of 1.79% lang. So napakababa with cash of 4.36 billion pesos. This year, binabaan ng SCC ang kanyang CapEx by 79% to 0.5 billion pesos from 5.9 billion pesos noong 2025. They will only spend money for maintenance and ongoing operations. This is intentional kasi ayaw din nilang mag-invest ng malaking pera habang hindi pa malinaw kung sila nga ba ang mananalo sa bidding. Kaya naka-hold muna ang big investment nila kasi wala pang contract para may flexibility sila kung ano man ang susunod na mangyayari. Here's the critical point. The Narra Mine is projected to be depleted by the end of 2026. At pag na-deplete ang Narra Mine by end this year, they have to fully transition to Acacia. The situation is this, paubos na ang current source pero ang Acacia Mine hindi pa fully operational. May mga operational challenges pa. Kaya hindi pa siya 100% ready to fully replace Narra Mine. Acacia Mine is around 350 meters below sea level, so it requires continuous pumping just to stay operational. So currently, SCC pumps out about 30,000 cubic meters per hour of seawater to access the coal. Kailangan ng specialized equipment, constant monitoring, and operational expertise. At dahil postponed ang bidding timeline, the 2027 contract is in limbo. But they can't justify the massive cost to fully operate the Acacia Mine without a guaranteed contract. Sabi ng management, any production interruption, lalo na ngayon na hindi pa rin officially tapos ang ongoing conflict sa Middle East, would drastically reduce baseload energy. Ito yung cheapest form of power. Tataas ang electricity prices, tataas din ang inflation, apektado tayong mga consumers, lalo na ngayon na mataas na ang fuel prices. Assuming ang goal ng DOE ay i-minimize ang disruption at i-optimize ang production, SCC pa rin ang pinaka-qualified kasi may track record na sila sa pagmimina below sea level. SCC lang ang may ganitong experience sa bansa. New operators would face technical and logistical challenges sa pag-operate ng Acacia Mine. Ang question is the government willing to risk a production gap in the country's largest coal source? Pag na-deplete ang Nara Mine at hindi pa fully ready ang Acacia Mine dahil sa delays, pwedeng maapektuhan ang energy stability ng bansa natin. At pag nagkaroon naman ng new operator at hindi naging smooth ang transition, pwedeng magkaroon ng production gap at maapektuhan ang power supply ng buong bansa. Sa ngayon, risk remains high due to uncertainty. SCC pa rin ang pinaka-qualified na mag-operate sa Semirara Mine, pero wala pa ring assurance na sila ang mananalo, lalo na kung baguhin ang criteria, gagawing financial-based ang criteria. Nara Mine is nearing its end life at ang Acacia Mine ay hindi pa talaga fully operational. For now, it's a waiting game. Maraming headwinds ang kinakaharap ng SCC ngayon. Is the potential reward worth the risk? Sa tingin mo, mananalo pa rin kaya ang SCC? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.